On Rye, Chapter 24. Our English teacher, Miss Gredis, was the absolute best. She was a blonde with a long, sharp nose. Her nose wasn't much good, but you didn't notice it when you looked at the rest of her. She wore tight dresses and low V-necks, black high-heeled shoes and silk stockings. She was snake-like, with long, beautiful legs. She only sat behind her desk when she took roll call. She kept one desk vacant at the front of the room, and after roll call she would come down and sit on the desktop, facing us. Miss Greta sat perched there with her legs crossed and her skirt pulled high. Never had we seen such ankles, such legs, such thighs. Well, there was Lily Fishman, but Lily was a girl woman, while Miss Gredis was in full bloom. We got to gaze upon her for a full hour each day. There wasn't a boy in that class who wasn't sad when the bell rang ending the English period. We'd talk about her. Do you think she wants to be fucked? No, I think she's just teasing us. She knows she's driving us crazy. That's all she needs. That's all she wants. I know where she lives. I'm going over there some night. You wouldn't have the balls. Yeah, I'll fuck the shit out of her. She's asking for it. A guy I know in the 8th grade said he went over there one night. Yeah, what happened? She came to the door in a nightgown. Her tits were practically hanging out. The guy said he'd forgotten the next day's homework and wondered what it was. She asked him in. No shit? Yeah, nothing happened. She made him some tea, told him about the homework, and he left. If I'd gotten in, that would have been it. Yeah? What would you have done? First would have cornholed her, then would have eaten her pussy, then would fuck her between the tits, then would force her to give me a blowjob. No kidding, dreamer boy. You ever been laid? Fuck yes, I've been laid. Several times. How was it? Lousy. Couldn't come, huh? I came all over the place. I thought I'd never stop. Came all over the palm of your hand, huh? Ha ha ha. Ah ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. All over your hand, huh? Fuck you guys. I don't think any of us has been laid, said one of the guys. There were silence. That's shit. I was laid when I was 7 years old. That's nothing. I was laid when I was 4. Sure, Red. Laid on good. I got this little girl into the house. You got it hard? Sure. You came? I think so. Something sorted out. Sure. You pissed in her cunt, Red. Balls. What was her name? Betty Ann. Fuck, said the guy who claimed to have gotten laid when he was 7. Mine was named Betty Ann, too. That whore, said Red. One fine spring day, we were sitting in English class, and Miss Gredis was sitting on the front desk facing us. She had her skirt pulled especially high. It was terrifying, beautiful, wondrous, and dirty. Such legs, such thighs, we were very close to the magic. It was unbelievable. Baldy sat in the seat across the aisle from me. He reached over and began poking me in the leg with his finger. She's breaking all the records, he whispered. Look. My God, I said. Shut up or she'll pull her skirt down. Baldy pulled his hand back and I waited. We hadn't spooked Miss Gredis. Her skirt remained as high as ever. It was truly a day to remember. There was a boy in class without a heart on. Miss Gredis went on talking. Sure that none of the boys heard a word she was saying. The girls, though, turned and glanced at each other as if to say, this bitch is going too far. Miss Gredis couldn't go too far. It was almost as if there weren't even a cunt up there, but something much better. Those legs. The sun came through the window and poured in on those legs and thighs. The sun played on that warm silk pulled so tightly. The skirt was so high, it pulled back. We all prayed for a glimpse of panty, a glimpse of something. Jesus Christ, it was like the world ending, beginning and ending again. It was everything real and unreal. The sun, the thighs, and the silk, so smooth, so warm, so alluring. The whole room throbbed. Eyesight blurred and returned, and Miss Gredis went on sitting there as if nothing was happening, and she kept talking as if everything was normal. That's what made it so good and so terrible, the fact that she pretended that it wasn't happening. I looked down at my desktop for a moment and saw the grain on the wood heighten as if each pattern was a pool of whirling liquid. I quickly looked back at the legs and thighs, angry with myself that I looked away for a moment and perhaps missed something. Then the sound began. Thump, 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 thump. Richard Waite. He sat in a seat in the back. He had huge ears and thick lips. The lips were swollen and monstrous, and he had a very large head. His eyes were almost without color. They didn't reflect interest or intelligence. He had large feet, and his mouth always hung open. When he spoke, the words came out one by one, halting, with long pauses in between. He wasn't even a sissy. Nobody ever spoke to him. Nobody knew what he was doing there in our school. He gave the impression that something important was missing from his makeup. He wore clean clothing, but his shirt was always out in the back. 1 or 2 buttons were gone on his shirt or on his pants. Richard Waite. He lived somewhere, and he came to school every day. Thump, 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 thump. Richard Waite was jerking off, a salute to Miss Greta's thighs and legs. He had finally weakened. Perhaps he didn't understand society's ways. Now we all heard him. Miss Gredis heard him. The girls heard him. We all knew what he was doing. He was so fucking dumb he didn't have sense enough to keep it quiet. He was becoming more and more excited. The thumps grew louder. His closed fist was hitting the underside of his desktop. Thump, thump, thump. We looked at Miss Gredis. What could she do? She hesitated. She glanced about the class. She smiled as composed as ever, and then she continued speaking. I believe that the English language is the most expressive and contagious form of communication. To begin with, we should be thankful that we have this unique gift of a great language, and if we abuse it, we are only abusing ourselves. So let us listen, heed, acknowledge our heritage, and yet explore and take risks with language. Thump, thump, thump. We must forget England and their use of our common tongue. Even though English usage is fine, our own American language contains many deep wells of unexplored resources. These resources, as yet, remain untapped. Given the proper moment and the proper writers, there will one day be a literary explosion. Thump, thump, thump. Yes, Richard Waite was one of the few we never talked to. Actually, we were afraid of him. He wasn't somebody you could beat the shit out of. That would never make anybody feel better. You just wanted to get as far away from him as possible. You didn't want to look at him. You didn't want to look at those big lips, that big unfolding mouth like the mouth of a bruised frog. You shunned him because you couldn't defeat Richard Waite. We waited and waited while Miss Grez talked on about English versus American culture. We waited while Richard Waite went on and on. Richard's fists banged against the underside of his desktop. The little girls glanced at each other, and the guys were thinking, "Why is this asshole in this class with us? He's going to spoil everything. One asshole, and Miss Grez will pull her skirt down forever." Thump, thump, thump. The man stopped. Richard sat there. He was finished. We sneaked glances at him. He looked the same. Was his spurn laying in his lap or was it in his hand? The bell rang. English class was over. After that, there was more of the same. Richard Waite thumped it often while we listened to Miss Greta sitting on that front desk with her legs crossed high. We boys accepted the situation. After a while, we were even amused. The girls accepted it, but they didn't like it, especially the little fishman, who was almost forgotten. Besides Richard Waite, there was another problem for me in that class. Harry Walden. Harry Walden was pretty, the girls thought, and he had long golden curls and wore strange, delicate clothing. He looked like an 18th century fop, lots of strange colors, dark green, dark blue. I don't know where the hell his parents found his clothes. He always sat very still and listened attentively, like he understood everything. The girls said, "He's a genius." He didn't look like anything to me. What I couldn't understand was that the tough guys didn't mess with him. It bothered me. How could he get off so easy? I found him one day in the hall. I stopped him. "You don't look like shit to me," I said. "How come everything thinks you're hot shit?" Walden glanced over to his right, and when I turned my head to look in that direction, he suddenly as if I was something from the sewer. Then a moment later, he was in his seat in the class. Almost every day, it was Miss Greta showing it all, and Richard thumping away, and this guy Walden sitting there saying nothing and acting like he believed he was a genius. I got sick of it. I asked some of the other guys, "Listen, do you really think Harry Walden is a genius? He just sits around in his pretty clothes and doesn't say anything. What does that prove? We could all do that." They didn't answer me, and I couldn't understand their feelings about this fucking guy. And it got worse. Word got out that Harry Walden was going to see Miss Greta every night, and that he was her favorite pupil, and that they were making love. It made me sick. I could just imagine him getting out of his delicate green and blue outfit, folding it across a chair, then climbing out of his orange satin shorts and climbing out of the sheets where Miss Greta cuddled his curly golden head on her shoulder and fondled it and other things as well. It was whispered about by the girls, who always seemed to know everything. And even though the girls didn't particularly like Miss Greta, they thought the situation was all right, that it was reasonable because Harry Walden was such a delicate genius and needed all the sympathy he could get. I caught Harry Walden in the hall one more time. "I'll kick your ass, you son of a bitch. You don't fool me." Harry Walden looked at me. Then he looked over my shoulder and pointed and said, "What's that over there?" I looked around. When I looked back, he was gone. He was sitting in the class, safely surrounded by all the girls who thought he was a genius and who loved him. There was more and more whispering about Harry Walden going over to Miss Grez's house at night, and some days Harry wouldn't even be in class. Those were the best days for me because I only had to deal with the thumping and not the golden curls and the adoration for that kind of stuff by all the little girls with their skirts and sweaters and starched gingham dresses. When Harry wasn't there, the little girls would whisper, "He's just too sensitive," and Red Kirkpatrick would say, "She's fucking him to death." One afternoon I walked into class and Harry Walden's seat was empty. I figured he was just fucking off as usual. Then the word drifted from desk to desk. I was always the last to know anything. It finally got to me. Harry Walden had committed suicide the night before. Miss Grez didn't know yet. I looked over at his seat. He never sat there again. All those colorful clothes shot to hell. Miss Greta's finished roll call. She came and sat in the front desk, crossed her legs high. She had on a lighter shade of silk hose than ever before. Her skirt was hiked way back to her thighs. "Our English culture," she said, "is destined for greatness. The English language, now so limited and structured, will be reinvented and improved upon. Our writers will use what I like to think of, in my mind, as Americanese." Miss Greta's stockings were almost skin-colored. It was as if she were not wearing stockings at all. It was as if she were naked there in front of us, but since she wasn't and only appeared to be, that made it better than ever. More and more we'll discover our own truths and our own way of thinking, and this new voice will be uncluttered by old histories, old mores, old dead and useless dreams. Thump, thump, thump.